Hey everybody, got a video here for you today. And for the first time before one of my videos, I'm going to say warning. Some images might be offending to my viewers, and this is a super difficult video for me to make. I've started making this one the last couple days, and I have no idea how to do it. So I'm just going to present it as a mystery. Those of you who have followed me for a long time know that I have researched certain subjects for a long time. And quite a lot of research has led me to this site here. And we are going to fly in to Quarietain in Syria. And no research has ever disturbed me like this research. But I think there is a mystery in this town. I guess this used to be called Homs, now it is called El Quarietain. And I think it contains a great mystery. Now, in this town of Quarietain, right before you get to Palmyra, is the Monastery of Mar Elian. And how did I get to this place? Well, my last video on Sagmatar, it was the name of the god that was worshipped at Sagmatar, coming from Odessa, Turkey, the Mariela or Marilala. And here you see the similarity, and this is the monastery. And here is St. Julian, or Mar Elian, being buried, the saint, wrapped in a burial shroud. Now, this is the original sarcophagus. I think this was discovered in 1978, the sarcophagus of Mar Elian. And when I looked at that, my curiosity was piqued severely. And I just wanted to look into this guy a little more. Who was this St. Julian or Mar Elian? And I started looking at other artwork here. Other depictions of who this guy was. And the mystery just got deeper. And the stories are kind of wide-ranging, and the dates are wide-ranging. But it goes back, I guess, to a story from 284. Really the time period when the people of the East and the Romans were having a real war as far as final scriptures. And here it says, this is the church of Mar Elian. And it says, Jesus Christ in Magisterium. Is that Magus as in Simon Magus? Jesus Christ in Magisterium, a portrait of Mar Elian. Now, I did find a few things that I just found shocking. Here is a fresco, or a painting, of Constantine and Hellena at the church of Mar Elian. And who is Constantine? He's the one who turned Rome into a Christian empire about 1700 years ago. Who is Queen Helena? Well, if you know her story, she went on a mighty quest for holy relics in a truly amazing story. Now let's read a little bit about Mar Elian and who this may have been. It says, the Christians believe that the Byzantine sarcophagus house in the monastery belonged to a 4th century holy man from Mesopotamia, who was the teacher of the greatest writer of the Syriac language, St. Ephraim, the Syrian. They say that he died returning from a pilgrimage to Jerusalem and asked his acolytes to place his body on an ox cart and bury him where the oxen stopped. The legend claims that the oxen reached Quarietain and refused to move, despite all goading, and eventually the followers of Mar Elian buried him there. His origins in Mesopotamia account for his Arabic name, but in Syriac he is called Mar Juliano or Sobo or St. Julian the Old, which is why he is sometimes called Mar Elian as Sheikh. However, the Muslims call the figure buried in the sarcophagus Sheikh Ahmed Khoury, which intriguingly seems to suggest that their sheikh has a link to the Christian priesthood. Now it says, a ruler in the 15th century promised protection to all who prayed at the tomb, giving tangible evidence that the site had been sacred to both Christians and the local Sunni populations at least 500 years. In all my time in Quarriatane, the sarcophagus was draped with a green satin cloth, as the local Christians were happy for their saint to also be venerated by their Muslim neighbors as a great sheikh. Every year on 9 September, Eid Mar Elian would draw thousands of worshippers to the site to pray at the tomb and attend an outdoor mass. The crowd would be addressed by the local bishop, but also the mufti of Quarriatane, and both would talk about their variant forms of belief in who Mar Elian was and why he was important. Now let's read a verse from a story of Mar Elian, or St. Julian. It says, Christ was pierced with nails in his hands and feet. Julian added the head as well. St. Julius was a pious young physician in the city of Emesa, and I guess he cured people, who remained faithful to Christ when many apostatized because of persecution. This was a time when Greek pagans, during the reign of Emperor Numerian, arrested Silion, a bishop of the city, with the deacon Luke and the reader Makoios in 284, and he hurried to their prison in order to embrace them with devotion and to encourage them in the glorious contest of martyrdom. Although they had been left in prison to languish from starvation and thirst, they had survived. Thus they were sentenced to become prey for the wild beasts. As they were being brought out, Julian hastened to them and embraced them and encouraged them, and he was immediately arrested. Meanwhile, 3 holy martyrs, being in constant prayer, surrendered their souls to Christ before the wild beast devoured them, and faithful Christians later gathered their relics. Julian suffered in prison for 11 months. Executioners then drove 12 iron nails into his head, feet, and hands. Drove 12 iron nails into his head? Well, I think this is a clear zodiological reference. Left for dead, he managed to drag himself to a cave. Having uttered a fervent prayer, he surrendered his holy soul to the Lord. Now here is where I went really, literally in 5 minutes of research to utterly amazed and fascinated to truly horrified beyond belief. This is Fox News Science. Christian saints' bones unearthed in monastery destroyed by ISIS. And I've never talked about ISIS destroying the ancient sites, but as you can imagine, nothing sickens me more. But I know some of you, Quarriatane, may have sounded familiar, but they came in here and killed many people, beheaded somebody who was in charge of the relics of Palmyra, who was here, and staked his body in the middle of town. And they destroyed the sarcophagus in the church and the monastery. And when I saw that picture, I literally... And my brother looks at me, and he sees the expression on my face, and he just asks me, what am I looking at? I tell him the bones of a saint that were unearthed in Syria, in a church that is directly connected to the first church of Antioch, and it's one of the earliest churches, Christian Syriac churches there is. And the bones were eventually, late at night, secretly re-recovered and put into a box, and they were saved. And I was so glad to read that. But these are the bones after ISIS destroyed it, and they were just thrown in a heap in a grocery cart. And I can't tell you how affected I was reading the story, and the bones of the saint, whoever he was, were just thrown in here. And I peer, and I see things. What am I looking at? I look away. Now I'll leave some links below about what happened at Quarriatane. And I just hate it with a passion. Now in conclusion, here is Quarriatane on the road to Palmyra. And this has been quite a story for me to research. There are a lot of questions. But one thing that really touched me is a story coming out of Quarriatane, centuries old, about how the people in this small town divided up, half Christians, half Muslims, and they agreed whichever became the more dominant faith, the members of that dominant faith would always look after their brethren of the minority religion. And it seems the people always got along here. And, man, that fits right in with this story, I guess. But people writing about this time period from the 2nd and 3rd century, when they were really going over and really debating and having a war of the pen of what went on in Jerusalem in the 1st century. People writing about this time period and the people who were writing about it, a lot of them say this: what truly happened will never be truly unearthed because of the symbolic and allegoric language being used in the translations to fit certain sides of the story and the retelling of original stories. And they said the real truth, because of all this underlying symbolism in translations and retellings, will never truly be fully understood. And I agree 100%. Unless, of course, you research the subject with an open mind, without an agenda or bias. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.